My name is Marissa Rodriguez, and I am the Compliance and Operations Officer for the Sweet Life Sales and Distribution. And today we are going to talk about successful crossover branding with Christine and Trista, who are brilliant, not just surviving, but thriving business leaders here in Oregon. And with that, I think we should let them do most of the talking. The first thing I think that we'd like to hear from each of you, maybe Trista, you can start, is tell us about your story to owning a cannabis business. What was your journey?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Right.
3 minutes.
Yeah, good call. Okay, so yeah, you can hear me with the microphone? Great. So, super long story, a little bit shorter. In 2004, I was an activist and advocate for medical marijuana, and I was working with Americans for Safe Access and Marijuana Policy Project. And I went to DC to both lobby and also get arrested on purpose in front of Health and Human Services in order to draw attention to Americans for Safe Access's lawsuit with the FDA, basically for not rescheduling or descheduling cannabis. So we went to activist jail, that's what I like to call it. It was a real jail, sort of. They didn't close the door on us. We were there for 6.5 hours, and while we were sitting in jail, I realized that women were both basically women started and ended alcohol prohibition. And in the same 20-year period, the suffragette movement also happened. So I also realized that women weren't really involved as much in legalizing cannabis at that time. And if we could bring more women into the fold and alleviate fears like fear of losing children and stigma, that we would be able to actually push forward legalization and get to where we are today. So while sitting in jail, I came up with the acronym End Marijuana Prohibition, Organize Women, Enact Reform. And that is Empower. Jump ahead to the next year, I created some topical products for my mom who deals with severe arthritis and chronic pain issues, as well as, a bunch of other things. Point of the matter is, got to give my mom some relief and started helping out a number of patients in the medical marijuana community. We got great results, and skip ahead to 2013, I launched Empower. So I guess that's the nutshell version. Does that work?
Yeah, I like the part about what happened in your garage, but
Well,
in the meantime, but
we could tell that story another time.
Christine.
So her story is really thoughtful and empowering, and I'm like a real-life Nancy Botwin. I practiced architecture at a large firm in Portland, Oregon for almost 20 years. I was married to a district attorney. I don't think I ever saw a marijuana plant for real life or touched one until I was 39 years old, at which point I was divorced, a single mother, and started dating a guy who happened to pay for things in cash, was growing, had a little dispensary, and I kind of quickly fell in love with this plant. And I started growing it and got a medical card. Never been a smoker. I've never really grew up with marijuana. I come from it really as kind of a client base out there, which is who I look at. We're kind of transforming into the cannabis client of the future, people like me. I started dabbling in 2014. Actually, her product was the first one I ever went to a dispensary and said, I love this branding is beautiful.
Thanks.
It was 2014. And I thought I would enter this market doing package design, and pretty quickly found that I was really disappointed in the edibles on the market and the consistency of them, and that every single one of them, if I just licked it, I was going to be blotto for 4 days, and it was going to be a really horrible experience. I started learning chocolate. I traveled to the East Coast, apprenticed under a chocolatier, was doing all this while I was still working as an architect. And then 2015, 15, I almost quit a couple of times. I didn't try to get into this industry. It wasn't a career for me. It was a hobby. Things kind of took off, and I cashed in my stock options as a junior partner, and much to my father's dismay, spent $70,000 on chocolate tempering machines, and we never looked back. That's kind of where we started, and we've really kind of, as a company, are still 100% fully self-owned. We don't have any outside investment, so we've dabbled with some different opportunities, but we've stayed independent, and we've branched out now with 2 companies, one that's in the marijuana industry, and then one that's doing more standard business practices with a CBD company that we are now selling nationwide.
Yeah, that's super important to have different companies for that.
Yeah.
Just to say. We also do that, obviously.
Okay, so I think that kind of leads to my next question, which is you're both operating two separate businesses in separately regulated industries. Mm-hmm. And what's been your strategy? What's been your challenge? What are you looking forward to? Tell us about.
Well, I would say, first off, I feel like in the cannabis industry where we were, it's like lightning in a bottle. Things move at just record speed. As everyone says, it's dog years. You're moving so fast, and you create something, and there's demand, and you go, and you get, there's like instant gratification. And just like I think people that go from traditional business and enter into cannabis, like, what the hell happened? The world turned upside down. Why is it moving so fast? That happens when you're moving in this industry and you're used to working at that pace, and then you step out and you go back into traditional business, and things don't happen quickly. So that was one of the things like we learned when we stepped out. We're like, okay, this is great. We came up with this great product. People are going to want it all the time, and great, let's go talk to these big retailers. And that's great, you can, but the answer is well, we will be evaluating that category in September.
Yep.
And it's February. So now what are you going to do for the next 7 months before they will even look at your product? And those are hard lines that you're stuck with. And so it's been a real transition and a learning experience for us to slow down and to operate at a different path. And I would tell anyone that the first thing is to really with crossing out is to look at your projections of what you think you're going to do. Yep. And slow it down by at least, slow it down in dog years, down to 1/7.
Yeah, true.
Because you're going to see, it's not that it's not going to happen, but you don't get that instant gratification in response.
Right. So I said that I told you guys that I launched my cannabis company in 2013. Well, I actually launched the CBD company in 2014. And I worked on getting into New Seasons for 2 years before that happened. So, and we were the first cannabis crossover company to make it into New Seasons, and we've been in since May. So it takes a long time and a lot of effort in order to mainstream our products. What else? You kind of covered it.
Well, I'm wondering if there were any challenges. I'm sorry if I go off topic.
No,
I'm wondering
please.
if you had any challenges if you're having any challenges convincing the mainstream market that your products are legal, they're safe, that they're not going to have some crazy liability, that the retailer is going to get into any kind of trouble. Has that been a challenge?
It depends. I felt like New Seasons has really embraced it, but they embraced it on their own terms when they were ready to. I don't feel like it was product specific. It wasn't like this brand I don't trust versus this. Obviously they're choosing the products that they want to carry.
Yeah.
Right.
But each retailer has to come to terms with the risks and liabilities of carrying these products. But what I think they see are the benefits. I know New Seasons has said that CBD, those 3 little letters, are the highest search rate on their website right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is a product line and that they're seeing the most interest in their entire store right now.
Yeah, I actually heard that New Seasons sees a category grow in like 3 years, but CBD has been their fastest growing category at New Seasons.
Interesting.
So it's kind of incredible.
It's that risk and reward of when retailers are willing, when the when the profitability outweighs the risk. And I think it's going to be really interesting too to see the Farm Bill is passed, but our government is still closed, so nothing is actually been implemented. But to see what happens this year, I think there's so much gray area with happening as things transition over to the FDA, and it's almost more crazy and the waters are muddier now. And I think we're going to see 18 months to 2 years before things start to get really regulated.
Yeah, I also think we'll see a lot of companies being shut down for making medical claims. That's happening left and right, and I've kind of always been like a Girl Scout about this stuff. In that I think it's important to obviously market your brand, but at the same time to do your best to follow the rules, right? And so I've encouraged a lot of newer businesses to just not do that. If you ever go to the FDA website, you can see the list of CBD companies they've shut down for making medical claims. And I mean, all it takes is a complaint. So definitely be wary of that, and definitely be aware. You can market with things like testimonials and such, but you can't. You have
this
to.
Doesn't treat that.
Yeah. So for instance, someone will write to us and say, "Oh my gosh, your product is the best thing I've ever used for my arthritis pain." And so you write back to them and you say, "Thank you so much for saying that. And would it be okay if you said this product works really great for me and I really love it?" And you're still getting the word out, but you're not putting a target on your back. And I think that's really important. I think other things that are also important to watch out for and to do are to get every single batch tested. And so I've taken a lot of the rules from OLCC and applied them to our CBD business. For instance, we get control studies for our CBD line, and then that means 2 samples. Don't just get 1 sample. And part of the reason is not just to be compliant and to set a standard of quality, but it's also to learn how to better your procedures, right? So you can get better processes by like checking out your RPD, which is relative percent difference, right? So anyway, point of the matter is I'm getting a little too sciencey about it. I apologize. I can get stuck in the weeds sometimes. No pun intended. But you can always better yourselves by getting that third-party lab testing. I think it's absolutely vital. And since we're some of the first for the crossover marketing, right, crossover brands in this way, I think it's our responsibility
I agree.
to do so and to set that standard for everyone else as well. So, did that help?
That was brilliant.
All right. That's geeky.
You also just mentioned, I kind of want to get back to the parallel businesses and like the challenges of just being a business owner that owns 2 businesses, or the wins, right? Maybe you are finding efficiency because you've learned lessons in one that you can apply to another. Can you speak to that?
I think there's pluses and minuses with everything. Pluses are having a separate business is not a 280E business. That's a huge plus.
Yeah.
Really, it really is, because you're able to move some of those costs and to offset sometimes your overhead and your employee cost and some of those things into a business that can have normal operating expenses. Downsides are right now we have to have double everything. We've got double machinery. We can't. Every single thing we're doing duplicative time. Double times. We run all our staffing through one, and then we rent back the employees through others. So
that's smart.
So we're not having to have 2 separate employee operations. So we are able to capitalize on that, but it's still complete 2 separate operations. We've got
Right.
separate facility managers. We've got separate accounting staff. We've got separate. So all these things that you're really spending more overhead than you would otherwise.
But that said, we can write off marketing for our CBD brand.
Right.
Right? I mean, it definitely makes a difference.
Right.
Being able to do that wins. The brand awareness that you can get by having a CBD company in multiple states is amazing. So as the cannabis markets open up, people already know our brand, right? So that's definitely a win.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the majority of the challenges.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree with I mean, going back, for instance, we were in New York in December for a week. And the East Coast is still, I mean, we take for granted, I think, being here on the West Coast, how sophisticated and educated we are just as an industry, because we live it everywhere, every day, our market. And what we have here is actually really good. And people have resources to go to. You can go to dispensaries, you can go to OHSU, you can go to a lot of these places that are educated and they're talking about it in an educated way. We go to New York, you see CBD signs everywhere. You can get CBD everywhere, but nobody even really knows what they're doing. We asked this woman, what do you use CBD for? She said, I don't really know. It's just really cool. You know, they're paying $6 to add it into their coffee. And I was like, have you ever asked what's in your CBD? Who makes it? Does it come with test results?
Right.
Do you know where the brand is based out of? Is it in China?
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought of that. And so what we're finding, I think, and where we're in a really great position out here on the West Coast is because we are what the tech industry in California was in 2000 or whatever that was. I mean, we are the I think what we're doing is setting a standard, a gold standard. We are the start. And there's a lot, I think there's a lot of garbage out there, but I think some of these companies that are crossing over with the high standards, particularly in Oregon as far as testing and consumer products, as we expand into other markets, we're lending a level of credibility that's probably, hopefully, far surpasses what's out there.
For sure, and I think it's also really important to educate our retail partners, right? So we spend my team spends a lot of time educating our mainstream retail partners on, hey, guess what? You need to have test results. You need to have a COA, a certificate of analysis, with every batch, and it needs to be batch specific.
Yeah.
I recently went to buy CBD from a company that I bought it from in the past, and they couldn't produce a COA, so they don't get my business, right? And I think it's like maintaining that standard of quality is first and foremost, I think the best thing that you can do to build your brand in this arena.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's talk about branding a little bit. If maybe you guys could each tell us a little bit about your brand vision, Trista, and what makes it different, and why you think consumers have attached to your brand.
Oh, that's an interesting question. All right, so people who are, of course, we can't make medical claims, right? But people who are in pain need to feel empowered, right? And I think that the word empower really resonates with a lot of people in that way. Yeah, I think it really does. And in addition to that, we've been an advocacy/activist brand. I mean, part of the whole reason I started doing what I do was to change hearts and minds, right? And well, let me go back just a little bit. So the Midwest is actually our best market for our CBD brand. We do great in the Midwest, and we get emails and even handwritten letters from people there on a weekly basis, right? It's just they're coming in and I cry every time I get one. Like that has never stopped in the 6 years I've been doing this, right? That said, we're refining our brand a little bit now because not everybody relates to the advocacy activism brand. So now it's more about empowering people and empowering people to take better care of themselves and empowering people to have a healthier lifestyle, really. and more freedom with their bodies. So, you go.
Yeah. I, our company, the word groen, simply means green in Swedish. I don't know how many people are familiar with Scandinavian premises and yeah. So I studied architecture school in Copenhagen and really fell in love with everything Scandinavian. And from the beginning, the premise is sure, green represents marijuana, but it represents so many other beautiful things in our life as sustainability and commitment to partnering with other purveyors that share our vision for taking care of the planet and people. And so really kind of my vision from the beginning was, committing to using fair trade sourced products, organic ingredients, partnering with local purveyors as much as we could. Oregon, Jacobson sea salt, our hazelnuts are grown in the Willamette Valley, all these local ingredients. And then being able to provide a product that is, whether it is enhanced with a CBD or THC, taste and feels good.
Yep.
This is not medicine that you're forcing down your throat. This is a delightful treat experience, and it's going to be consistent every time, and it's something you can depend on. And I think my team we always go back to with every product that we come out with is, does this meet our standard for how it looks, how it feels, how it tastes, and the whole consumer experience.
Right, and that's important. Not just for, we do similar sourcing, and it's important not just for the ingredients, but also for packaging, et cetera, because we make consumer packaged goods, right? And sometimes I feel bad about that. I'll be honest, I do. So sourcing the best we possibly can is always first and foremost important for us.
I think that's sorry, excuse me. It's interesting to see too in different markets where so in Oregon that's just inherently important to us because I mean look at Portlandia with the name chicken. We're all
right.
We are really we care about where ingredients come. We want to know where the chicken was grown and where the farm that our apples came from, and not everybody cares about that. And you can go into other cannabis markets, for example. You can go into Nevada is a great example where the market far exceeds the product on the market itself. So the demand on the market exceeds the product itself, which Oregon's in the opposite position. But you end up with products down there that are really the finished products, at least from the edible perspective, are really subpar. I mean, they don't taste good. People don't care. The demand, because they just gobble, you can't make enough product there to meet the demand. And the people that are there, they don't really care. They're just there for a piece. And so what you're seeing, I think, from coming out of Oregon and where we are in a really special spot is that the stories that are behind the brands that are succeeding right now are set, I hope, to really excel in the future. And so I encourage anyone to look at what is happening and what is happening here, because I don't feel like some of these other markets are really tested yet.
Right.
So some products, they may be doing well there, but that may just be they're doing well because the fact that the market has so much demand.
There's nothing better yet.
There's nothing better yet. So, but it takes a lot of discipline to commit to doing the right thing and paying money and having smaller margins for the right reasons,
Yeah.
and not just taking the easy way out.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I mean, we both source. Can I?
Yeah.
We both use East Fork cultivar CBD for my OLCC or Black Label line, and then we're also moving forward with them with their USDA certified organic hemp as well.
We are
for
too.
Our CBD line. I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, it's really exciting. But right now there's only 7 farms in the United States that have organic certified hemp, and there's only 1 farm in the United States that actually has organic certified hemp from seed to flower. Only 1, and that is East Fork right here in Oregon.
Yep.
And it's incredible, and it's incredible that our 2 companies are the companies that are partnering with them to take that nationwide.
Yep.
But those relationships don't happen overnight, and it's a kind of a almost like a trifecta, I would say, of great partnerships that you've made in the cannabis industry that then can cross over into a mainstream market and try to bring that message across. But yeah.
And I think it's important, and sourcing through companies like Eastwork is more so important because their story is great, right? And literally from seed to sale, not to be confused with tracking.
Yeah.
Being able to stand behind that quality and have that integrity with your products, I think is extremely valuable for marketing to consumers who care, you know? And obviously Oregonians care. Apparently people in the Midwest care.
I think people care if they're educated and they know. As soon as you ask somebody, hey, have you ever thought of looking at this? You should ask for a certificate analysis, or are they transparent with their test results, or can you find out where are they sourcing this from? Do you know if it has heavy metal residues? I mean,
Right.
these are all questions that good companies are happy to answer, and they're happy to answer the phone, and they're happy to tell you as much as you're willing to listen. If you're, but there's a lot of products out there, and there's no regulation right now on the CBD market. So it's,
It's
there
pretty
really
appalling. I saw a lotion on the market that's somewhat popular, and they list CBD as their second ingredient in a lotion. And does everybody here know that ingredients need to be listed by volume?
Yes.
Right. I can guarantee you that CBD is not
Yeah.
the second most. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not. So I'm actually looking forward now that we've successfully grown our companies in a highly regulated market. I'm really looking forward to the regulation that's going to happen with CBD companies, because
We are too.
That stuff is like nails on a chalkboard for me.
But I mean, I would encourage anybody. I mean, we preemptively took the step of hiring another third-party FDA label compliant specialist to review everything we have. Just third-party.
Yep.
The Farm Bill is passed. Things are happening. We might as well get ahead of this. Let's,
Yep.
we've done everything we can. Hire somebody else. Review it again.
Yep.
Pick out anything on here, anything that might raise a red flag. And it's just, she even had comments, now that the Farm Bill is passed, I would recommend changing these, and it's going to be a constantly moving part, because in 6 months, that might change again.
I wonder if we're using the same consultant on that.
Maybe. But, those are, nobody is forcing you to do, these aren't
No.
things like that you see in the regulated market, like with cannabis, where you can say, well, we got a license, this is approved by OLCC, I can operate with confidence, knowing that nobody's approving anything.
Right.
So it's up to you, so it's,
And being proactive in this is really important. We even had an audit done of our by a compliance specialist of our social media.
yeah.
So do that. That's a good thing. It's scary. So one thing most people don't know is if somebody comments on your social media and says, great, this product works for my arthritis, you actually are required by law to write to them and ask them to remove it.
Wow. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was the other $4,000. Sorry.
That's,
But yeah, so that said, if as long as you have the paper trail saying that you asked, if they choose not to alter their comment, that's not your problem.
it's astounding that there are some very, very, very large
Yes.
CBD companies out there that are blatantly making health claims.
Uh-huh.
Blatantly, like CBD is good for list.
Yep.
Openly on their website and pamphlets, and it has been shown to improve blah, 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 blah. Don't say that.
No. And you can, but eventually you're going to get shut down. And we're kind of in it to win it. So it's better not to do that.
Okay, so I'm interested in maybe top three or even just top one, like what comes to mind with especially to this crowd, because I think this crowd is here to hear about like successful crossover branding, like number one piece of advice to a cannabis business that is thinking about crossing over to CBD.
I think the number one piece of advice I would say, I mean, there's a few things. One is to really, really take the time to be, understand that it's going to be a much slower, while that market still is like rapidly growing, the retail market, when you're a wholesaler selling to these retailers, is going to be a lot slower. And the level of sophistication on the mainstream market is significantly greater than that in cannabis. So, I mean, that's not a market to test a new product.
No.
So these are the things that you've gotten away with on the cannabis market and are, you can't. The stakes are higher. I mean, it's like going from a 2A high school to to Harvard in a sense. I don't know how else to describe it, but you got to be spot on. These guys they don't mess around. It's going to take longer, and they don't put up with mistakes. And so being prepared for that, and then really knowing the audience that you're really trying to target with your brand and how you're representing your brand. And really understanding your competition on that mainstream market, because it is a different audience than the cannabis, at least from an edible perspective. It's a different audience looking at those that are looking to consume THC necessarily versus those that are looking for CBD, and understanding how your brand, the same brand, is speaking to two different people.
Yeah, they're definitely two different markets. We get a ton of elders using our CBD products throughout the country. So I think that is important. However, I also think maintaining those, I'm just going to keep railing on this, the standard of quality and the COAs, and being careful about what you put in your products. I think that's really, really important. For creating a brand that people can really get behind. And once you have loyal followers, they will tell people all over the country for you. We're just now starting to spend money on marketing. We haven't yet. Until now. I guess.
Okay.
I guess that'd be it.
This one might be a little wacky, but I haven't given much thought to this, but what about going from CBD to cannabis? Is it the same but backwards? I know neither of you have done that, but have you given that any thought? I imagine that there could be someone in the audience who has a CBD company and is like, maybe I should get into cannabis.
I wouldn't do it in Oregon. Not in the market where it is right now, only because it's so saturated. The shelf space is so limited right now that it would be such an uphill battle right now to try and come in and take over the limited amount of shelf space. If I was going to do that, I think there's an absolute market to do it, but I would go into an untapped market. It's where, those are the cannabis markets that I'm looking at, are ones, honestly, that are limited license in states on the East Coast. Let's get out of these states that are just a train wreck of open market where, that's kind of my take on it. Sorry.
Yeah, there's really, Christine just said it, that there's very limited shelf space in Oregon. It's an oversaturated market. It's not the place to do that.
Not right now.
Frank, not yet, not now. Maybe later. It sounds like a really uphill battle, actually.
Agreed. I saw a hand go up. You got a question?
What about a CBD company that wants to enter Oregon or Portland, for that matter, not so much the THC crossover, but one that's already established and trying to enter a market that's beginning to cross over into something that they haven't? And from my understanding, I don't really think it's a two-part question, but I think all of those products would be happily owned from Oregon or LCC certified. You can just buy it out of state. I'm not entirely sure on that.
Yes, so this question, I don't know if you guys heard it for the camera. Gotcha. Was about the hemp and CBD grown in Oregon, if it needs to be stay in Oregon, and how that works, and then coming into the kind of the Oregon system in a nutshell. So there's two different ways that the hemp is grown here. So grown in Oregon, in order for it to enter the OLCC system, it has to have an endorsement. The grower has to get the endorsement, and then from there, it can get processed by a processor, an OLCC processor that has an endorsement, and then it can go to someone like us. If you want, then we have to have a hemp endorsement, and then that product then on the finished product is not going to have a marijuana symbol, it's going to have a hemp symbol on it. And it's going to say that. So then you have to change your packaging, and that's starting to happen, but we're seeing there's a lot of pushback on that on the marijuana side of things. Ironically enough, there's a lot of hemp that's being grown outside of the OLCC system, but if anybody knows that the CBD in the marijuana system and the OLCC system is an absolute premium right now. So if you're looking to get in the market right now as a grower, I'd say all of you need to go out and grow CBD. Right. Because the cannabis market actually needs CBD material badly.
So I was recently on the Rules Advisory Committee for hemp for the OLCC, and apparently the CBD lobby has better lobbyists than we do. So I think that it's potentially going to open up to CBD companies. That said, it's still a saturated market. So.
And you are, as a CBD company, if you're outside of the, as we're selling all over the nation, we're actually selling internationally now to a couple of countries, but we are an Oregon company. Technically, legally right now, crossing the state boundaries, even as far as I understand from my attorneys, no one's holding anyone accountable for this, but technically, you're not supposed to interstate transfer with CBD technically right now. People are doing it. Nobody's calling them on it. It's not no one's going to jail for doing it right now. It's not like transporting marijuana, but it's still, and that's where you're seeing, there's a lot of these larger retailers that they have to weigh, like, am I willing to take the risk, to take this on? And some are, but some are much more open to that, and some are not.
That's true. We were, when it was 2014 Farm Bill that we were complying or attempting to comply with, we were actually using Kentucky-grown hemp in our CBD products as a way of getting there. Now, that was the company that didn't have COAs, so no more.
What are your tests there?
Right, exactly. So, yeah, it's not technically legal yet to cross state lines with that, and the FDA is actually going to have a lot to say about crossing state lines with hemp CBD products.
It's going to be interesting, but I can tell you Nordstrom's is looking at products, Anthropology is looking at products, Urban Outfitters, Petco. These are all people right now that are reaching out and saying,
Yep.
Send us your stuff, we want to evaluate. They are evaluating this market. So while we're not seeing it hasn't exploded on its own right now. Those dominoes are starting to fall, and we're seeing people like New Seasons that are really embracing it, embrace the education, and
Right.
Are committed to what's happening here on the West Coast. But we're not seeing. Sephora just picked up Lord Jones their lotion on a national platform. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's definitely happening. We're seeing the cosmetic industry, and it's going to be interesting to see which one really pops first from the CBD. Is it the cosmetics industry that's feeling more open to it? The FDA has really pushed back on putting CBD in supplements and in food, which is great because that's what we do. But these are there's no reward without risk, and so you do the best you can to try to streamline everything, be as compliant as possible,
Right.
so you're prepared for worst case scenario, but you plan for the best.
I'm surprised about that with the dimethicone that they use in their products. I'm just saying. Anyway.
I
Sorry.
saw another question. Yeah?
I'm just curious, versus the energy that you put into the CBD products for the national market? Because as you said, they are sort of two different consumer bases. How do you kind of balance out which way to put your energy in?
So
That's a great question.
it's a great question.
Basically, we don't sleep.
I'd say, I mean, it's a struggle that we've had, and really when I say we've danced at lots of different opportunities, it's hard in the cannabis world as a small company when you try to expand into other states. I mean, what we had in Oregon where you could get a license for a smaller sum of money, and start as grassroots, like those times are kind of gone. Really, more and more of these states that are legalizing, especially on the East Coast, they're really tied to political entities, and you really got to know. You kind of have to buy in, or you've got to contract or connect with these existing licenses that exist. So I look at really, I mean, twofold. We are interested in expanding our THC line, but I'm not interested in just mass market licensing our brand to other company. I don't. Personally, I'm a control freak, and I'm not convinced that neither we or new purveyors in other states are sophisticated enough to be able to replicate the product that we have here in the same way we're doing it. So unless
Yeah.
I'm able to go in and have a lot of control and be able to work with them to make it correct, which takes time, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So, we're looking at doing a few states and doing it really well, rather than trying to go everywhere at once. And our everywhere at once is the mass market with CBD. So that's
Yeah,
our
it really
balance.
is. I think it's really important to pick your licensing partners well.
Yeah.
And also to always have boots on the ground wherever it is. So you can't depend on a licensing partner to represent and sell your products as well as your own team can, right? So I think that's really important when considering licensing in other states with other companies.
There's only so much money, too. So it's that balancing of, do you want to take on investment to give up some of your company to move into other spaces? Or do you, part of our reason when we looked at this, I mean, we're a small self-funded company, was how are we going
Right.
to do this? And the way that we felt like when I looked at it was what's the mass impact I can do with the people and the resources I have? Well, that was rather than trying to set up shop in California, and how am I going to do that with two young children traveling back and forth, was, well, if we enter the CBD market, we're able to capitalize on the people and the staff and still have control over that and touch people outside of Oregon. Now we're starting to come back and say, okay, we've got that going. Now let's look at how we can enter into a couple other states. But it just takes time. And I think it's really hard in this industry, in THC or CBD, to have the discipline to say it's okay to not go lightning speed and that you're not feeling behind every single day. And that, oh my gosh, well, everybody else is moving so fast and I'm behind and I'm never going to make it because they're going to get there first. There's always room in a market for a great product. And there's always room. So take your time, do it right, have the discipline, watch your money, and just do it right. Like, spend your money on doing it right. And,
I think both of us are focusing on the strategy of growing the CBD companies, though, right
Yeah.
now. And if and when the right licensing partners show up, which they will,
then it works.
then it works, and then you focus on that. But grow where you have the biggest market, and right now that's the hemp-derived CBD.
Yeah.
I saw another question.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think applaud you guys for being very well versed on being a value-driven company with having the word integrity up in there. That's key, on both sides, cannabis and hemp. I'm wondering, you both mentioned that you're seeing that have an impact in some of these other markets, and I know the Midwest was a moment that came up there a couple times. When you say it's having an impact, can you give maybe an example of where you're seeing that being recognized, that integrity piece and that value-driven piece of what you guys have in your products?
Yeah, well,
You go.
all right. So a lot of our sales reps are in the Midwest, for instance, are doing a lot of educating of these retailers, and now our retail partners in those states know to ask for certificates of analysis when they didn't know to ask when they first started carrying us. So, and then they're educating their customers, and then we'll have, our team go in and do demos in these stores, for instance, and they're educating the folks there. So I think the more education that we're giving to these different communities that aren't, Pacific Northwest, crunchy granola organic, the customers are becoming more educated, so in these other areas, and that is actually driving the integrity and value-based business model in those areas.
Basically direct feedback from the boots on the ground.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. It's still a grassroots effort right now. I mean, we're still limited. We can't advertise on Facebook. We can't advertise on Instagram. You can't, other than putting a website up and saying, come by, come visit us.
Yeah.
It's still, we're not able to promote in standard business way. So it's boots on the ground, it's people there. And that's what we're finding in like the New York market, which is just, it's an amazing market right now for our product and kind of where we are in the market. And it's the same thing that we're finding is going into some of these retailers and educating them and their staff and then so that they're able to educate their customers.
Right.
And they want it. I mean, people, as soon as they are, they really feed off this energy, but they don't have, no one's out there educating them right now.
No, and these are the places where you'll see CBD sold at a gas station, and it's absolutely from China.
It's right there on the shelf next to Kratom.
Yeah, yeah.
And I saw it all over New York. It's in the bodegas. You turn it, it's everywhere, and it's such a it's almost depressing because it's a disservice to the great things that we're doing.
Yeah.
But what we found is that they're really people that want to do it the right way are really interested and are curious and they are finding relief and they do come back.
Right.
Because it actually, it really works. They find something that helps with whatever is ailing them.
Yeah, exactly.
As a part B, in that crossover for the rest of us that might be existing in a very small, oversaturated market that you mentioned of cannabis, is there a win that you're willing to share that you've had so far in the crossover, whether it be, some statistics from the new seasons or otherwise that will just keep us motivated to.
That's a good one. Well, first of all, getting into new seasons was a huge win.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
24 stores?
Yeah. 25?
25? Oh, there we go. 25. Sorry, that's not my department, actually. That was a huge win. We're getting to mainstream the brand and mainstream CBD is a huge win.
I'd say the same thing, particularly being a consumable product with CBD is people are that much more anxious about it, about their children getting a hold of it.
Sure.
I mean, one of the things that, we found just having a consumer face in town is people come in and we're educating people to go to dispensaries. There are a lot of people that come in and they're able to talk to us, they're able to try, and we send them down the street, and they're actually okay with it. But these are not always people that shop at these, I don't want to have the CBD because I have to drive later.
Right.
Really, and it's being able to educate consumers going to Portland Night Market. That was a big deal for us when we started our CBD group was, oh my gosh, we got into the night market. They took us.
That's pretty
They
cool.
accepted us, and it's just like one thing after the next, and then it's new seasons, and then it's other thing, and then you start talking to these other larger retailers. But I think, there's a lot of no's too, and there's a lot of what it is there's a lot of maybes. There's a lot of we're really interested, but we're just not ready.
Yeah.
Like we're super interested, we want it, but we're not ready to take the risk.
Totally. Actually, we've gotten a lot of that over the years. A lot of companies that just aren't ready yet, and I think 2019 is going to be different for that.
She's been doing it longer than we have. We didn't launch CBD. We launched it 10 months ago.
Yeah.
So we're still really, really new. But we're moving into a 10,000 square foot facility. So it's,
Nice.
we're growing. We're not stopping. you know, it's happening, but it's part of what we're finding now is, well, we started small because that's the only way I know how to do it. And
Self-funded.
yeah, self-funded. And then we quickly realized, well, you know, these large brokers, these large retailers, they come and they see our place and they're like, there's no way you can keep up with our demand. you got to make more. I'm like, well, you got to order more so we can make more. And they're like, well, when you can make more, we'll order more. I'm like, okay, you promise?
Yeah.
And so it's the scary, you guys, it's the scariest thing I've ever done. I mean,
It
it's
is.
it's the scariest thing ever. My hair is falling out. But yeah, but I mean, it's just different. The THC market, I feel like is like our little, it's like my little family. And it's so safe and it's so great here, but it's, you know, take a leap of faith, do your due diligence, believe in what
Yes.
you're doing, source from, really believe in who you're sourcing it from. Start small. Don't bite off way more than you can chew.
Right.
Know that be in a position where you can, with your THC or with whatever you're doing, you can fund that, your CBD operation. If it doesn't make any money for a year, you can keep it going. I mean, it's not gonna happen, but you just don't know with those larger retailers when you're actually gonna get in. And trying to
Yeah.
support yourself on online sales is not realistic to start.
No.
So just, you know, be prepared. It's not gonna move like THC.
Yeah, it just doesn't. But what we do see is a snowball effect,
Yeah,
right? So as soon as you get your momentum going,
it's doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say it's like doing this and it's not slowing down, whereas in the cannabis market, it did this and now it's here. And there's
oh no,
really.
we're still doing that.
In THC?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we've pretty much capped out unless I can convince more people to eat chocolate.
That's.
Um,
I'll help you do that.
okay.
Yeah.
I saw one more question. I want to get to it because I just realized we're really low on time.
Actually, mine was more from a marketing standpoint, especially with CBD. It seems like it's going to have more of a health-conscious consumer, and those type of consumers typically want to be more informed about what it is they're ingesting, how it's working, why it's working, and therein kind of lies the issue because you can't make medical claims, but you do also want to communicate and educate the consumer. So, how do you kind of like dance around that and get that information across?
Oh. This gives me agita. That's a great question. So, you want to repeat the question?
With marketing, how do you dance around the health claims but still really talk to the people you're trying to sell your product to?
Pictures.
We do a lot with imagery and, you know, like some video clips, people doing yoga. There's a
Yeah.
lot of hiking, people playing. I mean, so you've got arthritis, right? Someone's playing a piano. So those things that we see that people come in and they are able to say, this, I can move my fingers again. I can open a jar. I can pick up my grandkids again. So when you're able to connect with someone through a visual and they're like, I want to be able to, you know, and so it's a lot of, it's like pictograms and then also just, I mean, some of our taglines are just like, feel you, you know, I mean, we're not telling you this is going to just be, you know, be a better you. We're not telling you this is going to make you a better you, but you should try it.
Yeah. Empower your body, empower yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
And the CBD, there's so much right now buzzword around CBD itself. You kind of don't have to sell CBD. You just, we're selling a brand that you can trust in a
Right.
category that exists. How's that roundabout?
She did it.
That was good.
That was really great.
Brilliant. Okay, one more.
I just have one
Two more.
comment. Oh, sorry.
Go.
You guys play off of each other so well out of any of the panels I've seen.
Aw, thank you.
You guys dovetail off of each other really
Right?
and it's really added to the presentation, I think.
It's because we have a mutual admiration society going on.
I can
It's
tell
true.
all of us here.
Aw, thanks. Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Seriously, thank you.
That was